Hello, everyone. Welcome to Silver Tears Tarot, and of course, welcome to my new people. So, we're going to do a soulmate snapshot today. Soulmate snapshots are short and sweet and just kind of get to the bottom of something that's been bugging us. I got a really good question from somebody, one of the viewers, and so we're going to jump into that. What I will give you is a general reading for the collective, so it won't resonate with everybody, shouldn't resonate with everybody, but if it resonates with you, as I always say, go back and check some of the other messages. We've had some pretty good ones lately. So we're going to go ahead and jump in first with the energy of the day. So this is going to be the energy between the two of you. Sometimes we talk about the energetic backdrop, and the backdrop is kind of what is happening in the background, but this is actually the energy between you. So there's movement. As far as this says divine wisdom and spiritual power, but I would combine those and say spiritual wisdom that's passing between the two of you. That's what really kind of comes out. That's the energy between you. Then we've got the Emperor in reverse, a desire to control the situation. So I feel like that's maybe coming from both of you, but it's a little bit heavy coming from your person. And yet there's this kind of knowing in the background about the connection. You've got the Ten of Coins and the King of Wands in the reverse. So the Ten of Coins is in the upright, talking about kind of the... it's interesting because this is what's happening in the background, and I usually think of the Ten of Coins as a very material, day-to-day in your life environment kind of card. And the thing is, it's like this energy crossing over and becoming a part of your life environment, but it's a stable portion of your environment, even if the relationship between the two of you is not particularly stable. And it isn't partially because of this energy of control that that is, like I said, more coming from them, but it's definitely pretty serious as far as just wanting to control not just the picture of what happens, but also the way that it happens, the way that it looks. There is a sense of feeling like your person deserves something from you that you may not feel that they necessarily deserve. So it's complicated because this is part of what holds them together and part of what gives them that sense of confidence that they have, but it's very thin. So with the Seven of Swords here, there's a lack of self-trust that wants to more or less undermine them at every step. So that's kind of the energy between you. As far as from their side, though, there's a feeling of I feel very confident until I look too closely at it, and then it starts to undermine them. You are still that source of inspiration, that source of, they are very impressed by you. With the Empress card, this is something that we've seen come up a couple of times. It impacts things between you because there are certain things they would be embarrassed to show you, such as the fact that they're not feeling especially, they're not feeling especially capable, not incapable, but more that they haven't hit some of the levels of emotional self-mastery that they feel that you have. So it is true that you're probably farther along on that than they are, but they may be perceiving you as being even farther ahead than that. So with the Page of Wands here, we have the Page of Wands, and I was feeling the Knight of Wands when it came up. And then that's going to be it from this stack. I never know how many I'm going to take. I go until it feels like it needs to stop. But I felt the Knight of Wands when I got to this Page of Wands, and there it was right underneath. So with the Page of Wands, I've got this feeling of a willingness to reach out and try something new. And with the Knight of Wands, it's a very passionate action. So it's reaching out and trying something new. It's having some of the inhibitions that are typically there kind of a little bit out of the way. That might be true on both counts. So you might be more inclined to hear from them at this time, or you might be more inclined to reach out to them at this time. And the question that we're going to ask today is really around your interpretations, your impressions, and what's really going on. So this is useful because there's a lot of drive to reach out, but not necessarily a lot of, gee, I really understand what's going on. There's not a ton of, like, here's the Temperance card. This is a hard-won balance that you win after you spend a lot of time getting yourself into balance and doing the work. So that work is still very much in progress, and the balance eludes both of you. So both of you are kind of wondering like what's real and what's not. So the question that I want to jump into today comes from a viewer, and I'm going to try and do this is almost entirely verbatim. So the question is, I get that I'm not making this up, but I'm worried I might be creating some connections in my mind that aren't necessarily there. And how can I avoid doing this? What's really happening? So we're going to look into that, and it's kind of the flavor of how do you know whether what you're seeing is real, or if it needs to kind of, if you need to step back and take a different look at it from a different angle. So that's kind of the question that we're asking. How do you know? What do you do about it? And what's really going on here? I think let's start with what's really going on here, because then you'll have some idea of whether you're making stuff up. So we've got the Ace of Feathers. The first thing that comes up is the Ace of Feathers in the reverse, which is a nice answer to the question, but not necessarily the answer that we would look for. So the Ace of Feathers is about a lack of truth, or something that is not being seen as the truth. So it's pretty clear here, but the thing is that gets to me is it's both of you. So it's pretty clear here that there's some misinterpretation of the situation going on both sides. There's the Four of Feathers here, healing that is happening, and that healing is part of what's really changing up some of those perceptions. So you might even notice that based on or compared with when things first started with this person and now your perceptions have really changed. It has a lot to do with what you've learned and maybe what's still out there. So just be aware you've still got some things to learn, and there are probably some places where you are creating your own reality to a certain degree. I mean, we do that, but sometimes it's a matter of it's detrimental to understanding what's really going on, and that may be part of what's happening here. So we have a Page of Swords. Now, this is an element of things we would not want to quash. There is really actually a bond here that is completely real. That's the part that you're not making up. Page of Swords is the willingness to move into that next step. Knight of Cups is like the willingness to reach out and make a communication. But then we've got this Two of Swords back here kind of talking about a lack of confidence, because you're saying, wait a minute, what am I really seeing versus what am I kind of making up? There's still a lot of heartbreak in the energy, and I think there's an element of looking to escape a little bit of that heartbreak and escape into fantasy. So a few readings ago, we looked deeply into their situation, because we had all this dreamlike energy, all of this fantasy energy, and we found that your person was actually like hiding in their fantasies, and that was part of what was going on there. With the Nine of Cups in the reverse here, we see that there's definitely a feeling of things not being the way that they would want or that you would want. And that's why there's a need to kind of look around that truth. There's also a desire to control it with this Emperor energy here. This is not a balanced Emperor energy. So there's a tendency to, like I was saying, want to control things, but not necessarily be in the right in doing so. Might be overstepping the bounds. And yet there's this, I want to reach out, I want to have conversations, I would like to interact, but there's, like I said, a lot of heartbreak here that needs to be dealt with. With the Queen of Coins, we've got so this is the Queen of Coins in reverse. It is a feeling of deep, like it's lack. It's a feeling of lack. So there's a feeling within, and this is another shared energy. I don't know if it's like 50-50 shared, but it is definitely shared. It is a shared energy of the two of you not necessarily feeling like you are completely worthy of the situation, if not of each other. So, we have the Two of Wands. So we've got this self-worth that feels like it's a little bit damaged here. We know that that's part of what you're learning. That's part of one of the things that you're working on. But it is not helped by the fact that your person is using something as an excuse to remain distant, whether it's an age gap or there's some kind of difference that we see that they're using as an excuse. And they're really trying not to think about it too much, because it has a tendency to upset them when they think about it too much. They think about the opportunities that they've missed, and it feels like they've made a mistake. And so what I would say here though is, so this is kind of the what's going on, and the first thing we learn is that yes, there is some misinterpretation of the situation on both sides. You'll notice that it's constantly evolving, and that has to do with your constantly healing, you're constantly changing, you are constantly evolving. But there are some practices here that are going to cause you to both come together and break farther apart. Until there's an opportunity to really reach in and address some of this heartbreak and this pain, without an effort to control it too much, then it's going to be very difficult to move through. Um, let's get a feel for what you can be doing about this. Ever with the practical information, I mean, a little bit of it started to come out in the reading, and if it comes out in the reading, I'm not opposed to, um, using that, obviously, but I just want to see, like, what are you expected to do here? So we have the Queen of Acorns. This is like Wands energy. It's fire energy in the reverse. Queen of Wands in the reverse, or Queen of Acorns in the reverse, is really about making sure that you're doing things for the right reasons. So when you see yourself, you're thinking about reaching out, or you're thinking about not reaching out, when you think about why you're doing these things, do the reasons pass muster? Do they feel right to you? Then we've got the Nine of Shells in the reverse, suggesting that there is some work to do as far as figuring out what it is that you truly want. And, it's something that's constantly changing. So something that you might have felt that you really wanted a few months ago might turn out to be, it has evolved since then, and it's maybe not the same thing anymore. It changes over time, and if you don't keep your finger on the pulse, you end up pretty far off and having to make huge adjustments. This is a place where we've noticed that your person finds themselves. They often are having to make huge adjustments to get where they want to go, and that's where you get things like midlife crisis, or significant awakenings that make people make huge changes in their lives. And we've seen a lot of your people going through the big changes in their lives. So there's a reason for this. The reason that you guys are both experiencing kind of a rude awakening with this a little bit, it has to do with the overlap of your lessons in the area of what I like to call the big three. So it's that fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of betrayal. This is yours to work on. They have the same lesson. So we noted that you had a lesson around self-worth. They have a little bit of that too, but it's because they have such a strong imposter syndrome as well. Both of you are working through what I was just talking about with the big three. And then with them, they're also working through vulnerability to a certain degree. So there's also an element of, it's almost like you got into this situation with this person and it so blew you away that you were just kind of left standing there motionless and surprised. And we see that with the Wheel of Fortune and the Chariot. This is, okay, it's time to pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and keep moving, but not the same way that you had been. Now you're aware of some things that you definitely don't like and won't tolerate. Now you're definitely aware of some things that you've kind of been working on, just in the efforts that you've made so far, just in living through this. You've managed to invest in yourself somewhat. And that is really significant. That's going to help things start to move in a direction that allows you to manifest a little bit more effectively. And that's a direction that we see you moving in. So with the King of Swords in the reverse, though, this is like an admonition. This is not just advice, but it's, hey, you may be making a mistake here in that you may not be looking at the big picture. You might have to take, like we were saying earlier, a step or two back to really look at the big picture. So those things that are not coming across as truths that you're still kind of trying to figure out and work through. This may be why with the Lovers in reverse, it's especially frustrating because what you're being given from your person is not exactly a spirit of cooperation. And yet you can feel that connection down deep. And so it's super frustrating because it's still there, but you can't really access it. Just know they can't access a lot of the emotion within that either. But over time, if you've been watching the readings, you see they have been doing a little bit better. So there's something that needs to change here, and you are aware that it needs to change, but it's a pain. And so it's like you haven't necessarily been wanting to make the change. And here's this Ten of Cups that thought it might come out over there, and I was waiting for it to kind of want to come out again, but I think it was saving itself for over here. So when you see, and you're going to see this because we've already seen this in previous readings, when you see the thing that presents itself to you as an opportunity that seems like it's too good to be true, get in there and really take a look at it before you make any actions. I mean, because I think you're a very different person now than the last time when you saw something that seemed like it was too good to be true. And so how hard you chase might look pretty different. The way that you initially respond might look pretty different. Just a memory to, or just a recommendation to kind of keep track of this piece of advice, and that when you run across the thing that seems like it's too good to be true, don't make too many assumptions about it. Go ahead and release those assumptions and attachments. Um, You've got the Magician card in the reverse, and at first glance that feels like a kind of a bad thing, because it feels like, oh, there's manifestation that you're not going to be able to do, or something that feels like it's not going to be able to happen. I don't get the sense of that at all. I feel like this is, once the truth starts to become a little bit more evident to you, all of a sudden that manifestation energy opens up. But that's not as easy as it might sound. So getting that Ace of Feathers to turn upright so that you are definitely interacting in truth is way harder than it sounds, because some of the parts of the truth are difficult to hear or difficult to internalize, or they might not completely mesh with your values. Your person has been experiencing some of that as well. So we've got the Queen of Swords that kind of came out sideways when it fell to the floor, and it feels like that's the way that it's supposed to be. And then we also got the Justice card. So there's going to be a tendency in you to want to set things right. There's a lot of forces working around you that are going to make this to be the case, where you're going to want to set things right. But chief among those is just your desire to get right, to get to the right place, So then we've got the Queen of Swords, which came out sideways. It's very much a feeling of, hey, I'm cutting things out that don't make sense, but I'm also not making rash decisions about it. So this is the not making rash decisions. This is the cutting things out. And so there's a lot of going back and forth, and you are encouraged to continue doing that. Just continue thinking about these things as you make your decisions, and weighing them carefully, because they're not always going to be handled the same way, because particularly, like we were seeing earlier, as you change, so does your way that you handle your decisions. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. This is a soulmate snapshot, so there's not going to be an extended at the end of this one. Just a quick glance. So thinking about maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking about what to do for tomorrow. So maybe write me a note and let me know. You can either drop me an email, or you can send me a note via social media. Those are the best places to do it. As I mentioned a while back, I don't have the comments on here because it's too many places to go to get comments and recommendations and thoughts from you. So social media is fine, either as a comment or as just a note to me, or you can do email. So I will look forward to hearing from you, and have a wonderful rest of the day or evening.